free speech always costs. And once again, if I had the chance to do it all over again, I would, because I don't think I have done anything wrong. I'm just trying to bring light to something. And if people really looked at the numbers, I don't think they should be as afraid as they are. To me, it's a bad cold. All right. Now, if you're 85, then it might be a threat to you. But the research is clear. Those 85-year-olds that die, they were going to die a week, a month, 2 months later. So it's not as bad, in my opinion, as what I think the media is scaring you into.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Waterloo, Ontario. And folks, before I get to my story today, please, if you can, go to journalistdefensefund.com. Sometimes we need to hire bodyguards. Sometimes we have to pay lawyers. And if you can make a donation, it goes a long way when it comes to us telling you the other side of the story. Well, folks, I am in Waterloo. I am here with Dr. Jeff Winchester. He's a chiropractor, and he is potentially in a bit of hot water. He's had some complaints filed against him by other doctors, by members of the public, by the Karens on social media. No, not for any kind of medical shenanigans in his clinic, but rather for messages he has posted on his outdoor signage. Yes, Dr. Winchester doesn't agree with the groupthink when it comes to the Wuhan virus and the masking regulations, and for that, he might be paying a very hefty penalty. Just will you hear his story. Okay, so Dr. Winchester, as I said in the introduction, things were going along merrily here at your practice here in Waterloo. And then you decided to put up, a somewhat cheeky sign for passersby and motorists to see. And what was on that sign, and what was the reaction by some people?
Well, thanks, David. The sign read simply, "We welcome mask exempt, no discrimination here." And to me, this was the original social media. That's my sign. It's been out there for years. And this is how I relate to people instead of getting into the Facebook, Google world.
And Dr. Winchester, when I see a sign saying "We welcome mask exempt," what's wrong with that? We know there are bylaws saying mask up, but we also know in those bylaws there are several exemptions for people with medical reasons, children for religious reasons, and on it goes. You were just stating on your sign, as far as I can tell, what the actual bylaw states.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I'm into one of those arguments where it's about feelings versus facts. And the facts are absolutely on my side. I've done nothing wrong. And yet someone has either misread the sign, misrepresented the sign. They might have a bias against me or a bias against chiropractic, but that's where I am. And I'm in a position where it could cost me some time and some of my money. And I don't think it's fair when these things happen.
So first of all, you notice the Karens on social media hectoring you about basically stating something that I don't see there's anything wrong about it. But I believe somebody also made a written complaint to the Chiropractic College in Ontario. And first of all, why was someone so offended by that? And what could be the ultimate penalty for you if the Chiropractic College upholds that complaint?
Well, I never know what's going to happen nowadays in society. What I think should happen, I'm not seeing that anymore. This is at a complaint stage already. It could go to a discipline stage. A discipline stage would mean lawyers. It would mean court costs. It would be a lot of money for a sign that the bylaw allows me to do. So I'm not telling people to take masks off. I'm saying there's discrimination out there. And how do I know there's discrimination? Well, let me tell you. I have to wear a mask in my office, but I'm mask exempt. So here's the thing. I'm forced to wear my mask. I like to affectionately call it my muzzle. And then I wear this in the office, but I wear it up and down, a minute, 2 minutes at a time when I'm in close contact. But I can't go to a store. I cannot wear them out in public because it causes a health issue with me. But yet I'm forced to put it on in my office.
And by the letter of the law, if there is a health issue, you are exempt. But I think, Dr. Winchester, you told me off camera, this is potentially no trifling matter by the time your costs, your legal fees are considered once you go through the process of fighting a complaint, having a hearing, whatnot. You're looking at maybe as high as $20,000.
It could be somewhere in that time. And not only that, it's my time. It takes my time, it takes my energy, it takes my focus away from what we should be doing. And what we should be doing is helping people, teaching people a healthier lifestyle, because I do think a healthy lifestyle is probably what we should be focusing on if we want to avoid COVID, yet everyone else is focusing on hiding and needles. And you know what? I don't care. If people want to go get needles, go get all the needles you want, but you have to understand I might not want that needle. I don't know if you saw the study that came out about a week ago. They looked at people who tested positive for COVID, and they asked them if they sometimes wear a mask or never wear a mask, and it was really interesting because when they looked at the people who caught COVID, 70% of the people who wear masks all the time, that was their stat, and the people who never wear the masks, they were around 3%. So when we look at this, we're saying, wait a second, the more cases of COVID we're seeing, more people are wearing masks, and you're trying to convince me this is working. And I'm going, well, I should see the numbers be dropping because everyone's wearing masks. And you know, I don't want to get into name calling, but you know, Doug Ford was at a wedding this summer with a bunch of people, and you know, we get to vote. So we get to vote on who is going to be in power. But I expect the people in the power to be cordial. If someone goes and protests in front of our premier's house, I don't know if the premier should be actually making fun of those people, because his job is to not, those are people who voted for him, and I got a problem with that.
Yeah, I think there's a great degree of tone deafness out there by our leaders and our bureaucrats, Dr. Winchester. But getting back to your sign, far be it from bending the knee, you doubled down. You put another statement out that ignited a hornet's nest of criticism, and I believe it was it had something to do with you calling masks muzzles. What exactly did that sign say?
Yeah, that was a sign that was just before the sign that got me in trouble. It was called 8 more months of muzzles with a question mark. So I tried to make it a question, not a statement. And I guess I feel bad about that one because I think my time frame is wrong. I don't think it's going to be 8 months. I think it's going to be forever. And that's the problem in the sense. People tell you to wear a mask, and we've been 2 weeks to death. This is only going to be 2 weeks. Then it's going to be 28 days. This is going to go on for a long, long time until we start to look at the science and say, hey, wait a second. Maybe we don't know as much as we do know. And we know we're destroying people's lives. We know the suicide. We know the domestic violence. We need to factor all that in, because when the cure is worse than the cause, at a certain point, we need to acknowledge that. At least that's my personal opinion. And as a chiropractor, the funny thing is, when I graduated from chiropractic college, I don't remember signing a piece of paper that said, I don't have a right to speak to anyone anymore. And you know what? That seems to be what's happening nowadays. Because if I signed a piece of paper that said, I can't have a view on masks or inoculations or the government, then I guess I shouldn't say anything. But that's the world that we're moving to, and that concerns me because I'm a big Jordan Peterson fan, and I'm all about free speech. Don't tell me that you can force my speech and I have to do things. I think we need to have a free country, and I don't think we're free anymore. So it's not like they've beaten me down. It's just there's so many battles that I'm fighting all the time, but I'm going to keep fighting them, because if someone doesn't stand up to this, in my opinion, it's tyranny. Then we are all going to be in trouble, not only us, our children and their children's children. Now, when I was open through all of this early COVID, it was only about a week and a half I was closed. We opened up and we saw emergency patients, but I saw these people, we didn't wear gowns, we weren't wearing masks, goggles, hard helmets, we weren't wearing anything. And then all of a sudden you get to a point where there's no cases in the region. Well, there's cases here, 13 I think we got a few days ago. There's no deaths. In the last 3 months, we've had 2 deaths. One death was 2 months ago, and now we're putting all these precautions into place. It just doesn't make sense to me.
You're preaching to the choir here, Dr. Winchester. I mean, there's a quantum difference between virus positive tests and the number of deaths.
Who cares? It's a terrible metric. That's like me saying, I'm gonna guess your weight with a yardstick. You know, it's not the tool that you should be using. So they're counting cases because that's all they have now, because we're not seeing the deaths, we're not seeing the ICU. And if we saw the ICU admissions, if we saw the hospital admissions, we wouldn't be scared anymore because it's nothing compared to April. But that's not how this world works.
And I guess if we look at where we are and the here and now, I guess does the Chiropractic College take a certain degree of time to investigate everything? I guess it goes to some kind of a committee. Do you know what the timeline is when it's time for them to render a decision if you've been, I guess, naughty with your signage?
Yeah, so if I really want to avoid a lot of problems, I just have to run my sign now through the CCO, and then they will either approve it or they won't. And if they approve it, it's not another problem. Now, this interview is another, can of worms. They might not appreciate me speaking my mind. Now, right now, I've got 2 active complaints. Never had 2 active complaints in my life, but it's about the time frame that we're in right now. We're in these very interesting times. This could be my hat trick. I hope I don't get a hat trick here, but things can happen. People can complain, and I stand by what I say. I don't think I've said anything that's out of line. I don't think I've said anything that is offending people. But once again, people have to wake up. This is my opinion that this has been way overblown.
And I guess one last question, Dr. Winchester. It's funny. These are signs that you put up. I think at worst, I would call them cheeky. But it is a method of free speech. And I guess what you're going through, what you're learning is that in certain cases, free speech isn't that free, given the aggravation, the potential lawyer's fees you face. And it's almost like making a mountain out of a molehill. These were just, like I said, cheeky signs, maybe even poking a little levity at the situation, being a contrarian. And yet the potential penalty you face in terms of time and money, it seems egregious to me.
Well, free speech always costs. And once again, if I had the chance to do it all over again, I would, because I don't think I have done anything wrong. I'm just trying to bring light to something. And if people really looked at the numbers, I don't think they should be as afraid as they are. To me, it's a bad cold. All right. Now, if you're 85, then it might be a threat to you. But the research is clear. Those 85-year-olds that die, they were going to die a week, a month, 2 months later. So it's not as bad, in my opinion, as what I think the media is scaring you into.
Well, Dr. Winchester, all I have to say is keep fighting for freedom, as my boss likes to say, and I hope any kind of preponderous penalty is avoided. I don't see the crime here whatsoever. It seems to me just people acting out in an irrational manner, in a fearful manner. And so I wish you well going forward. And when the Chiropractic College weighs in on your case, please give us a call and let us know what happened.
Thank you very much for your time, David.
Hey folks, if you like us bringing you the other side of the story, please go to journalistdefensefund.com, make a donation so that we can pay our bodyguards and our lawyers to continue bringing the journalism you've grown accustomed to.